All right, we're going to deploy a Ruby on Rails app to AWS using AppPack today. The app we're deploying is called Bullet Train. It's a open source SaaS framework for Rails. And we're going to use AppPack to do this. I've already downloaded the AppPack CLI and I've set up my AWS environment using it. So I've got a database and a Redis instance there that we're going to end up connecting to. So to create the app, I'm going to run AppPack create app, and I'm going to call my app Bullet Train. And I'm going to set that up in that existing cluster. And I'm going to use my GitHub repository URL. I have a branch called demo, which is all ready to go. I don't need a custom domain right now. Our health check path is at health check. I'm going to create an S3 bucket that we can upload files to. I don't need a public one. I don't need a queue. I will set up our database and I will connect to our Redis cluster. And I will set myself up as a person who can administer the app here. And this is now going to connect to AWS and set up a whole bunch of resources there necessary to run our application. So this is going to take a few minutes. We'll go ahead and fast forward this to the next part here. Okay, our app is now created at AWS, and we are going to set up some environment variables that the app is expecting when it runs. So the first one we'll set up is the AWS S3 region. This is the region that we originally set our cluster up in, US East 2. And to do that, we're running apppack-a, the name of our app, config set, and then the environment variable we want to set. The next one we're going to run is called secret base key. So we are behind the scenes storing these environment variables in the parameter store in AWS as encrypted keys. So they're safe to store secrets in there. So we'll set this one. Normally you'd set a kind of a long random string here, but for a demo, we're okay with this. And then finally, we are going to set one called base URL. So this is the URL the app will respond on. Note that we'll have HTTPS automatically set up for us. And this is the domain we set up for our cluster before this. And if we just put our app name before that, we'll automatically get a response on this URL. If you want a custom domain, it's also possible to set that up too. Great, so with those environment variables set up, we can trigger our initial build and deploy. Normally this would happen automatically whenever you push to your GitHub repo, but since we don't have any changes to push, we're going to just run one manually. So that is apppack build, start, and then we pass the watch flag to it so we can see the logs as this process is going. So this is the full build pipeline that AppPack sets up out of the box for you. It will create an image from your code, and it will run tests on that image. If you define them, it will also run a release task, which is usually used for database schema migrations from one version of your app to the next. And then it will do a rolling zero downtime deployment of your application at the end. So this whole process takes a few minutes. We'll go ahead and skip ahead on this as well. Okay, so now you can see our deployment started. Bullet Train requires a background worker process and a web process as well. These are going to get run as containers at Amazon, and the web process will get attached to a load balancer, which handles traffic for that. While this deployment is going, I am going to switch to another tab here and run a couple of release commands that Bullet Train recommends you run on initial setup. Usually you run these as a release process, but Bullet Train has a different way of doing this, so I'm just following their instructions here. So I'm going to run AppPack shell here. This will create a isolated shell for me with all my code and everything running in AWS that I can run commands against my environment in. So that'll just take a second here. All right, I've got my shell open and I'm in a container with all my code. So I'm first going to run rake-db migrate. This will create my database schema for the app. And then I'm going to run rake-db seed to seed that initial database. And we're all set now. And if we go back to our other tab, I can see that we have deployed successfully. So let's go ahead and try to view our app, see what that looks like. So I can run Bullet Train open, and that should give me a browser window with my app running. And you can see I can sign in here. I can create an account. So I've got that app all running. Another thing I'll show you here is that I can open our AppPack dashboard. And if I am in here and choose my Bullet Train app, I can see information about it, the services that we've defined for it to run, recent activity on the app, any add-ons. I can also see build details here, metrics, and all sorts of other things. So that is deploying a Ruby on Rails app to AWS using AppPack. Thanks for watching.